Chapter 22 Moss and Rain. When the tension finally broke, when heat and desire stormed itself into exhaustion, the room collapsed into quiet. Charred cedar, warm moss. After rain, stillness. Alek didn't move away. He stayed wrapped around Rowan, protective and solid, his forehead resting against Rowan's pulse. The silence wasn't heavy. It was clean, like air after fever, like the world resetting itself.
"You don't smell like a speech anymore. Just the rain,"
Alek murmured. Rowan's eyes burned.
"My father."
"Let him rage,"
Alek said, pulling the duvet over them both, cocooning them in warmth and moss and stone.
"He wanted a weapon. I wanted a partner."
Alek kissed Rowan's temple, slow and certain.
"He lost. We didn't,"
he said confidently. Rowan let himself finally rest, lulled by the whisper of the waves outside and the steady, undeniable heartbeat beneath Alek's chest. The only man who had ever looked at the rain and seen something worth keeping. The suite went silent. Only the sound of the heater and the rhythmic crash of the northern ocean filled the space between their breaths. Later, in the pre-light of dawn, Alek sat on the edge of his bed, elbows braced against his knees, still in the dark slacks and half-tucked, half-unbuttoned shirt. His urgency for Rowan was obvious with his rolled sleeves, wrinkled fabric where Rowan's body had been held against him. That single moment, that desperate need, had burned like confession for them both. He could still see Rowan's eyes when he'd turned in the mist, sharp and vulnerable all at once, as if the man were made of stormlight and control. He'd looked at Alek not as a superior, not even as a political ally, but as someone who could break him open if he wished. And Alek had almost wanted to claim him for everyone to know who he belonged to. But that was not choice, and he loved Rowan too much to deprive him of that. But this changed everything, and Alek had to steer the direction towards something positive. He rubbed a hand across his jaw, exhaling hard. The scent of spring rain and paper lingered on his fingers, his clothes, maddeningly real.
"This wasn't supposed to happen,"
he muttered, though the words were only half convincing. He had brought Rowan here under the pretense of a donor meeting, but that wasn't the truth. Not really. He'd seen the exhaustion, the tremor under Rowan's immaculate posture, the way his eyes had gone distant in strategy meetings, as if some unseen force was dragging him beneath the surface. He knew that look too well. The look of someone breaking, quietly, politely, while no one noticed. Alek had told himself this trip was for morale, that a change of scenery might reset the campaign's rhythm, smooth its fraying edges. But watching Rowan now, his careful control finally loosening, his sharp lines softening as he slept, Alek understood the truth with startling clarity. It had never been about politics. Not once. It was about him. It had always been about him. Because now, Rowan had chosen honesty, trust. The truth would surface. Alek didn't want him just as his strategist. He wanted him entirely. And that was the one thing he could never allow himself to admit. Not yet. Alek turned toward the balcony where the fog still pressed against the glass, silver and endless. So instead, he forced himself to turn off the light and lie down, to indulge in the warmth beside him. Alek closed his eyes, wrapped an arm around Rowan, and breathed him in. In the restless space between thought and sleep, he admitted to himself the one thing he couldn't say aloud: that the greatest threat to his campaign wasn't the opposition. It was the quiet, aching truth that somewhere along the line, Rowan Adams had become the center of his world. Chapter 23. After the Passion. Rowan woke late. Not the sharp, gasping return to consciousness he'd learned to expect, but slowly, comfortably. Sunlight filtered through the sheer curtains, pale and forgiving, warming his shoulder where it slipped past the duvet. His body ached from the previous night's activities, but it was a deep, satisfying ache. Pleasured. Real. For a moment, the unfamiliar peace startled him. His instinct was to reach for the panic, to inventory threats, rebuild defenses, prepare himself for the burdens of the day. But it didn't come. The space in his chest stayed open. Quiet. This was different. Rowan lay still, staring at the ceiling, and understood with sudden clarity that this was a turning point. He could go back to survival mode, to constant vigilance and chemical armor and lies told so often they'd begun to feel like truth. Or he could choose this, whatever this was. Calm. Balance. The terrifying possibility of being seen while still standing. He didn't know what that would look like yet, but he knew he couldn't pretend the old way hadn't nearly cost him. The shower helped him think. Steam softened the world, blurred his reflection, and loosened things he didn't know he was bracing for. He replayed the night in fragments. Not the heat, not the hunger, but the afterward. Alek's presence. The lack of pressure. The space to exist without performing. By the time Rowan dressed, soft sweater, pressed slacks, bare throat untouched by scent patches or Alek, the strategist had finished assembling the answer. Alek was already awake. He sat at the table near the window, coffee in hand, tablet glowing with reports. He'd been up early, turning the same thoughts over and over. When to talk, how to talk. Whether bringing up Rowan's health now would feel like concern or control. After everything they'd shared, he didn't want to turn care into command. He looked up as Rowan entered, and felt something like loving attachment settle in his chest. He had not claimed him, still protecting his Alpha choice despite his wish to see Rowan shed himself of it. Rowan didn't look fragile. He didn't look like he regretted last night. He looked settled, awake in a way that went beyond rest. Those sharp blue eyes met Alek's without deflection, without panic. Relief washed through him so suddenly it almost knocked the breath from his chest. Alek stood immediately, poured a second cup of coffee, and crossed the room. He kissed Rowan softly, a morning ritual Alek wanted to begin moving forward, and handed him the mug before guiding him to the table. "Morning," he said quietly.
Afternoon, technically.
Rowan replied, a faint smile touching his mouth. They sat, Alek was still choosing his words when Rowan spoke first.
I don't want to wear the scent patches anymore.
Alek went very still. Not with shock, with relief. Profound, grounding relief. Rowan was choosing this. On his own. Alek didn't interrupt, didn't rush to reassure or argue. He let Rowan continue because this mattered.
I know what it means.
Rowan said, fingers caressing the warm ceramic.
Politically, personally, I know the risks. But I've known for a while now, the Alpha persona is hurting me. I just didn't consider that I had much of a choice in the matter. But now, I won't survive another year like this.
Alek exhaled slowly, nodding once.
I've been worried about that,
He admitted.
but I didn't want to push. I needed you to come to it yourself.
Rowan glanced up at him, surprised but not alarmed.
That matters. This matters.
Alek added quietly. Encouraged, Rowan continued.
I'm still your strategist. I'm still good at what I do, Alpha or not. And that role requires authority, optics, structure.
His voice didn't waver.
I'll still wear the Alpha suit, the position.
Alek listened, absorbing every word.
But I won't hide what I am anymore.